My name's Mykaell Riley. I'm Director of the Black Music Research Unit at the University of Westminster. I'm also Principal Investigator of the Bass Culture Research Project.
And what made you decide to start this?
It's any number of decisions, but the primary fuel behind this is the absence of this type of exhibition, of images that reflect this culture in high art spaces. And what that means is, on one hand, either the culture is dismissed, or it's not important enough, or on the other hand, they're assuming that the content doesn't exist. So we're challenging all of those notions by putting on something on this scale that should actually be put on by the major exhibition spaces with, I was going to say, a fraction of the money.
And what does reggae mean to you personally? How has it influenced you?
Well, in terms of my career, in terms of who I am, I'm Jamaican. That's the first position. Reggae is the musical soundtrack to my life, who I am. It's the basis of my career. My first band, Steel Pulse, reggae. I created the first black orchestra in the UK, the Reggae Philharmonic Orchestra. I developed the first black research centre. It's all based on the music that has underpinned my existence in the UK.
And what impact do you think reggae music has had on British culture, in your own words?
Simply, I'll reverse the question. If you think of UK without reggae, if you think of England without the Caribbean community, you start to get a sense of that impact. It's not just the music. It's about fashion, it's about language, it's about dance, it's about British cool, it's about invention, it's about the sound of music, it's about rave culture. All of that comes out of reggae and its presence and impact in Britain.
And can you tell me, how did this art exhibition come about? How did you get your photos and get everyone together and pick the right people?
That's a long story. In terms of even getting the funding, that is 8 years of applying and being rejected, applying and being rejected. I'm not an academic researcher, they announced me of that. I'm a music producer that works in academia. I've challenged the system in terms of trying to raise the money. Having raised the money, I've broken the rules in terms of this is supposed to be a small exhibit. So I've staged this with the help and contribution of the photographer, Adrian Booth, because we couldn't afford even the copyright clearance. I've got the community to support. I've got the university to support. This technically costs a lot of money, a six-figure sum, and we've done it for a fraction. So in terms of pulling this together, it's up until 2 a.m. last night. We're in here building, wiring. It's a lot of people that have come in to pull this off. It involves a full-length film by Fully Focused, special artwork by Gerard Hansen, a new painting from someone that's from the National Gallery. It involves our students who've created new animation around the subject. So it's not just music. We're showing that it's bigger than the music. It's about art and creating a new conversation around that whole thing, Jamaican music in Britain.
And it's going on for 4 weeks. So over the next 4 weeks, what can people look forward to?
Well, over the next 4 weeks, we have a series of pop-up exhibitions. So this is just the start, and this isn't even finished. Tomorrow we'll have film in. We have each week a new event. We have conversations every week. So interviews with celebrities will take place every Friday. We also have pop-up exhibitions from the community. So each week you come in, there'll be a new exhibit. The first of which will be Peckin's Record Shop. Will open within the exhibition. Peckin's is the oldest record shop in the UK. Goes all the way back to the 60s. and it pioneered the sales of Studio One records. So each week you expect a new exhibit, it will be advertised, there'll be new performances and new content to come down. Oh, and really most importantly, on the 9th, we've got the Rude Boy catwalk, right? So we're asking people to come dressed as they were when they're 18 years old, listening to this music. And if you can't fit into the clothes, bring a photograph.
What's your favorite photo in the whole exhibition? Why that one?
I think what's really important about this photograph, this is the unspoken voice of reggae. It's women. And it's the contribution made by women over the last half century in terms of this music, not just in the Caribbean or Jamaica, but in the UK. And also what you've got in this photograph is dance style, you've got fashion, you've got the speaker boxes, you've got the guys, and this is the UK, you know, and this picture was taken in Wolverhampton. So it also says it's not just about London. I'm not from London, I'm from Birmingham. And so the story exists outside of London. So there's lots of stuff that this image captures that only a good photograph can.
And I personally grew up on reggae because my dad is kind of old school, but people of my age they know reggae now as not the Bob Marleys and the Dennis Browns of the world. They know them as the current reggae artists that, to me, don't have that same impact as, you know, Gregory Isaac and them people. So what do you think the next impact will be on the British culture moving forward?
It's already happened. I mean, we've picked a seminal period, mid-70s to the early 80s, but actually this is a story about drum and bass. This is a story about jungle. It's a story about two-step. It's a story about trip-hop. It's a story about UK garage. It's a story about grime. All of these have a direct relationship to the images we have here. Thank you for walking through my interview. It's all right, I have to do that because it's a Jamaican thing. We're going to keep that in. No, it's a story about contemporary music, and so this is not divorced. This is just showing the beginnings, and if we come forward and we look at what youth are doing today, we need to connect them to this to show that there is a legacy here, and the legacy is being continued by them. It's not an old story, it's a contemporary story.
Will there be more exhibitions in the future?
This exhibition is already booked into Paris from March next year in the Museum of Migration. We've already had inquiries from Cambria in Australia. Last week I met with the director of the Smithsonian Institute in Washington. What you need to understand about this is, outside of the UK, they don't talk about black British music. So this is generating interest in the whole conversation. So in terms of the future of this, we're putting the history of black British musical contributions on the map, and it starts right here.
One last question I have to ask. What's your favorite reggae artist or song, or what gets my...
I think it has to be Bob Marley. In my first band, Steel Pulse, we did the first European tour with Bob Marley. And so Bob, his music, his early albums is what I grew up on, and that's what inspired me.